Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. This is Jake, and we are excited because we are on site at Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We had the opportunity to sit down with a variety of different distilleries in what we're calling the Best of Kentucky Bourbon Festival. From people like Bardstown Bourbon Company, Broken Barrel, Peerless, and we start with O.H. Ingram. We catch up a little bit with Hank to understand what's going on in Wickliffe, Kentucky. We're here at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and our first stop as we come into the festival is at O.H. Ingram, catching up with Hank. And you have some new whiskeys out. You have your new bourbon, but mainly you got something going on with the barge. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in Wickliffe right now?
Absolutely. Wickliffe's been great to us. We are actually in process of building out the second barge. The second barge is going to have about 3,000 barrel capacity. Our first had about 2,000 barrels. We're planning to fill that up actually even next year. So good things ahead. We've got our bourbon and our rye here today at the festival, so looking forward to trying people on that. Otherwise, you can find us anywhere around Kentucky these days.
Awesome. So is there anything teasing that can come out for the fans here at the back end of 2022 or into 2023?
Absolutely. So I hope you guys have heard about our 2022 flagship. We just announced recently that it's available on shelves in October, so whenever this hits, I hope there's still some left for those that don't know about it. For those that do, I hope you have a friend.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming to Bourbon Festival. It's exciting to see you, Hank, and I can't believe this is still a dream from a Vanderbilt project into an actual, like a reality and a lifestyle for you. So thanks for being here and catching up with the Bourbon Lens.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
We're back here at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and we are sitting down with Danny Bardstown. Dan Calloway, for those who don't know. Mr. Blender, does everything, sommelier, got a great palate. He's amazing. Dan's a great friend of the podcast. But we're going to sit down just to talk real quickly about the new LeBeau. So you spent a lot of time crafting the first one, but now we have the second one, which was much anticipated. So talk a little bit about what went into the crafting of the second rendition of this LeBeau that you all just released.
Yeah, so incredibly excited for it to come out. It's been a long time in the making, and it's really an exercise in blending and then barrel aging lengths and different heights, right? So we had 30 total barrels. They came in different deliveries of 15. The first delivery, we knew we wanted to go longer, went on a lower floor, a little cooler, and then the second delivery went on the top floor and aged quickly. So it's everywhere from 17 up to, say, 24 months, different aging, different characteristic styles, and then we wanted to make a blend that matched the Armagnac profile. So it's a blend of Kentucky and then Tennessee bourbon that really just goes perfectly with the floral notes of the Armagnac.
Yeah, so when people, got this critically acclaimed of the first one, like, did you feel pressure to try to hey, we got to hit a home run, or is this, hey, it's a standalone project, it's just a second rendition of the same type of barrels? Like, how'd you feel about that?
There absolutely some pressure, but we knew we could deliver. And the cool thing, we brought Denis over, the owner of Chateau de la Baude. We got to talk through the flavor profiles, kind of learn how he viewed his Armagnac and how this project fit in with his vision. And I think for that reason, we were able to match the flavors better. And I knew from the beginning, we wanted it to be a blend. We wanted it to be a completely different take than the first release.
Yeah, I think that's what's really interesting. Like What I think is really interesting about just all the releases recently, it's blending the profiles overall. Like if you look at the Plantation or you talk about the Fercolin or this one, it's shining all elements of the finish and the whiskey itself. So have you just feel like you've gotten a little bit of a stride in crafting, this distillate over the last few years?
Yeah, a stride's right. I think I'm just figuring out how to do it. Figuring out, it's really cool to make a blend for a barrel finish, right? So we've got some really cool ones coming out, and I like to lean into creating a blend to then be finished by a flavor profile. We won't always do it, but I think it's just really innovative and a cool way to approach a product.
Yeah, and just last question, like what's been like the trickiest blend that you all have had? Like, because you've done rum finish, you've done Muscat Mustel, you've done all types of stuff. What's been the trickiest finishing product that you've worked with?
Honest answer would be the cognac, because it was so vibrant that one we really had to monitor as it aged. Some of them, they just fit like a glove and it's natural. You find a singular bourbon and you just don't touch it and leave it alone. Others, you're manipulating, you're you're moving floors on ricks, you're maybe altering some progressions or plans. It's almost, in a way, those can be more fun. But the great thing is we got an incredible team, and we're flexible, and we have fun doing these projects.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And if people want to learn more about blending, Danny and team at Bardstown Bourbon Company have a blending experience you can go through at Bardstown Bourbon Company. So if you get a chance, come out to Bardstown Bourbon Company, enjoy some great food, take the blending experience, and you'll have a great time just learning how they're crafting these whiskeys moving forward. And thanks again, Danny, for spending a few minutes with us. Cheers. Welcome back to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. This is Jake, and I am here at RD1 Spirits. And as you all know, huge Kentucky football fan. Love what Mark Stoops doing. But there's this guy behind the brand that's actually the face of the brand. It's Barry. So, Barry, thanks for joining the Bourbon Lens today. So, how's Kentucky Bourbon Festival for you all this year?
Well, this year has been totally different because we're able to sell bottles. House Bill 500 that was passed allows us to sell as a distillery at fairs and festivals. This is probably one of the biggest bourbon festivals, and it's going great. We're having a wonderful time interacting with folks, and they get to take home a bottle that is from our new distillate that we just launched a couple of weeks ago. So things are going great.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about while we're here is you all have kind of really – the William Tarr brand is kind of sunsetting, and you're bringing back just the RD1 brand. Like, what's that mean to you all just to have like your own distillate that you all are standing upon with that RD1 brand versus having the William Tarr in market?
Yeah, I think that when we looked at the brand and for doing the rebranding with RD1, that's really at our roots. Registered Distillery 1 is really how we want to describe ourselves because we take advantage not only of the era when William Tarr owned the brand from 1871 to 1898, but the fact is that we're able to introduce a distillate. It's our own mash bill. And we're building a production distillery in Owensboro. So next year, mid-year, we're going to have a 49,000 barrel capacity that distillery will be able to produce. But what that means to us is that this is our brand. It will forever be on the shelf. And as we move out to being a national brand in about 5-6 years, that will be the mash bill that will always be on the shelf.
So as you think about that, why French oak for the first kind of finish for that? Because I'm a French oak fan. It's got a certain unique finish and characteristics. So why French oak to add this to your mash bill?
Yeah, and that's a great question because one of the things that we did is we finished 12 different finishes, and we had a master tasting panel. So everybody's tasting this, and we're providing our own notes. And that French oak, at the percentage that we finished it in, rose to the top, and everybody said that was their favorite. The key on finishing is that you can't over finish it. If you do, it gets tannic, it gets over oaked, and nobody wants that. This, what we feel like, is really complemented that rye bourbon mash bill, but what it's done is it's kind of softened some of the notes and provided some richness that is really delicious. I mean, I get a cocoa and an almond on that French oak finish that's very delicious. So it because it rose to the top of our tasting panel, we had to. But there are single barrel pick options that are finished in an Amburana. I know that you've seen that coming out. Amburana is a Brazilian oak wood, and it's, if I could describe it as a holiday in a pour, it's very delicious. So that was the reason.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Umbriana is really infamous with that cigar finish, right? That many brands have done and come out with. So my last question is, what's it like right now being around Lexington and having this brand that you all are revitalizing to have right now with all the hype around the conversation with what's going on in Kentucky? Has that helped you all grow your all's brand and spirits?
It has. I mean, being a Lexington, Kentucky brand, we have to own our backyard. We have to own Lexington. We have to be a presence in Louisville and in northern Kentucky before we move out to markets outside of Kentucky. And we are moving into the Indiana market. We've already got a state manager there, and our distributor has approved us. So we will be in the Indiana market, but it's so important to own that market that's in your backyard. The other thing, Coach Mark Stoops is our majority owner, and it doesn't hurt that UK is doing really well with their football team. So we're loving it. We're not a celebrity brand. Coach is a Division I football coach. He leaves the brand to us, to run. But the one thing that, all marketing is good as long as they spell your name right. And it's even better when you've got a coach that is in a top 10 team right now, here early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. A former alumni, you're probably not going to get a bigger fan than me. There's really no other podcast that can understand Kentucky football quite like the Bourbon Lens, because I literally bled, sweat, and tears. Super excited. We're huge fans of what you're doing. Love the idea of just owning Lexington. Like, that's huge. Thank you for spending some time with us here on at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Welcome back to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. This is Jake, and I am with the best dressed whiskey man in all of bourbon, John Wadle, for people that don't know him. John's representing Peerless today. So what's going on with Peerless right now?
So today's Friday. Tomorrow we have our double oak small batch releasing at the distillery. Cork will be down there selling bottles. But today we were pouring our small batch bourbon, small batch rye, and we had our rum finish release in bourbon.
So of the three, what's kind of like your love language of the three that you were pouring today?
I think our rye. Rye doesn't get enough love as it is, and I think we do a really great rye. It's more of a Kentucky rye, very low rye content. And I love our bourbon and everything else, but I don't think our rye gets enough appreciation of how good it is.
And do you think that's a little overshadowed by the double oaked bourbon? Because it's gotten a lot of critical acclaim, and to be honest, it's one of my favorite double oaks that's on the market.
I think it does, just because the double oak is just fantastic. And we have our double oak bourbon coming out this month, but I'm telling you what, the month of November, we have our double oak rye small batch coming out and being released. And I think that's going to give the double oak bourbon a run for its money.
So that's exciting, because last year, this time, I did the double oaked rye from Peerless versus the double oaked rye from Starlight, and they're completely different, right? Whiskeys and distillates, because you have the Indiana style rye versus the Kentucky style rye. One's super citrusy, one's more like caramel, dark, chocolate, vanilla, oakiness. Like it's all the joy of the holiday season. So as you look forward to it, like what do you think you think that's the holiday drink for you this Christmas season?
The double oak rye?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like I already know I'm gonna buy like a case of it as soon as it gets like bottled up. But yeah, I think we can, there's so many people that I taste that say I hate rye, I don't like rye. I'm always like, just give it a chance. And whether it's a small batch or the double oak, people love it.
Yeah. So my last question is, are you going to get one of those double oak ryes to finish in Stave and Beam coffee?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, man. We just got Wilderness Trail, so they're doing a wheated bourbon barrel with the Papua New Guinea bag, so they're going to have their own exclusive Stave and Beam coffee for their gift shop too as well.
So just the last question, because we can't talk to John Wadle without talking about Stave and Bean. So what other big releases do you all have around Stave and Bean coming up for the holiday season and, into the fall?
So we're doing Bourbon on the Banks at the end of this month, end of September. They're going to have their own personal coffee. There's a bunch of us that went out to Wilderness Trail and picked a barrel with Alan Bishop, Kelly Tennille, Hunter Coffee, and we picked a barrel exclusively just for the Bourbon on the Banks Festival, and I'm going to do coffee in that barrel for them as well. That's
super exciting. For those who love coffee, try Stave and Bean. If you love coffee and bourbon, definitely Stave and Bean is where you need to go. And John, thanks as always. Hopefully that right hook is getting a little bit better for you in the golf game. And we'll catch you, next year on the golf course, because you got a lot of time to get better between now and then. Until next time, cheers. Welcome back to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. This is Jake, and I'm along with Seth from Broken Barrel. Welcome back to Kentucky, brother.
Dude, always a pleasure being here. Always good to sit with a glass of whiskey with you.
Oh, dude, it's great. Like last time we sat down, we were actually in Green River.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's right.
Talking about a lot of change.
A lot has changed. A lot has changed there. A lot has changed with us.
Yeah.
I got 3 bottles in front of us that I'm really excited to share with you.
Yeah. So one of the ones that I really want to focus on is you have this kind of gnarly, like rye whiskey that's super limited called Magic Rye, not Magic Mike, Magic Rye.
Magic Rye. It's the name of this particular single barrel. Peerless names all their barrels.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first one of rye that we're doing. It was a distillery exclusive, so I brought some up here to Kentucky to go over with you.
Yeah, so super excited about this because it's limited numbers. Like you have like bottles, not cases.
Bottles out of the distillery, yeah, bottles.
Yeah, and so you have some high hopes for this one. So talk to us a little bit about how you got to this really limited rye whiskey that we have here to drink.
Well, we wanted to do a fill your own barrel in LA. You know, I've said it on every interview I've ever done with anyone. Like, my whole concept is, you came to visit me, you made the effort to come to my distillery. I want you to get the best whiskey you possibly can from us. So if you've made the effort, you get that opportunity. So, you know, we don't have people waiting in lines or anything like that yet, and we're a little inconspicuous in our space. We're in the back side of a building and next to a freeway off the, in downtown Los Angeles. But we have Kentucky bourbon, Kentucky rye. We have some Indiana wheat there. We've got some American whiskeys. So this is one of those single barrels that you can actually fill your own. This is the rye, and then we have a bourbon, and they'll be up and running by October 1st.
Sweet. So this would be perfect time so if you're headed to LA, this is a great time.
You gotta stop by.
Yeah, hit up Broken Barrel. Like, that's one of the things I'm trying to find a way, me personally, to like get work to get me back to LA. It's on my list to get to the warehouse, break a few more barrels, do all the fun stuff.
We do a lot of barrel breaking out there, and I've got my little library.
Little
library that we mess around with sometimes. So it's always a good time. Like, coming and visiting in LA is a whole different experience than the one you and I had at Green River.
Yeah.
Back in, I don't know, a year ago. I think.
It was a year ago this time, like August,
right around
July. Yeah. So, with all that, you've come out with a lot of things. We launched a single barrel together that was
that was so good.
It was gnarly. I love it.
Cast.
Yeah,
and 120 proof.
Yeah,
7 year,
and it was great. Like, it went over really well. People loved it. Sold it out. But you're doing some crazy things, right? So you're not just
a lot of releases this year.
You're not just rested on your laurels. You're not just saying, "Hey, we've done this really cool thing with distillate from Kentucky." You're saying, "Hey, there's American single malt, which is gaining steam in a fast way.
Yeah.
There's rye whiskey, but pushing the idea of this honey smoke, right? Like doing a variety of different stuff."
That's the other two. So we've got honey smoke rye in front of you, and we've got the Luciferous single malt. Both of these were picks by clubs. So a lot of the stuff that you'll see that kind of comes out rapid fire from us is going to be pre-sold, negotiated stuff, like kind of like what we did with you guys, where we will work with groups to create something new all the time. We don't want to sit still. We don't want to stop moving, but we also don't want to just put stuff out and hope that it does well. We want to know that the things we're working on have a customer at the end of the road, and that there's a home for this whiskey where it's going to be appreciated and pushed and has an audience. And there's a lot of buildup in that too from the marketing standpoint. So we talk about the creation. Sometimes we get together and do the barrel pick versus sending whiskey out and doing a pick that way. So the Magic Rye was actually a Bourbon Thieves, if you're familiar with like the online group Bourbon Thieves. Our friend Anthony Riccardi called me and said, "Hey, let's do mezcal and honey finished rye." I said, "Are you sure about that one?" He goes, "I'm sure. It's going to be amazing." I'm like, "It sounds weird, but whatever."
Yeah.
And I sent some samples. I mocked it up sort of by using mezcal and honey to teaspoon it into the rye. And then I sent him samples, says, "This is directionally what it could taste like." He said, "Great." We dumped it. We sat there for 6 months and waited, and what we have is now a super dark, super rich, super flavorful, herbaceous whiskey that honestly you may not even know it's a rye.
Yeah.
Like, it's so different and unique. You can't pigeonhole it into like every other rye you've had, especially Kentucky rye. So that's one, and then the other is the Luciferous, which is our American single malt, 122.6 proof.
Which barrel proof single malt's not a ton out there.
And this is finished with Amaro. We could be the first Amaro finished American single malt. I don't know. Possible.
Big fan of single malts. People that are pushing the envelope, like Westward, Westland, all those guys. I have not heard of Amaro cask finish. So
I don't think it's
done
out there. Hopefully, I like to be the first.
Hey, nothing wrong with the first. But that's what I really want to talk about, because recently you've gotten some acclaim. I follow you on LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn,
so
I do a lot on LinkedIn.
There's some really cool articles. A lot of people like social media, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You might not see all that content, but like you all have gotten some really cool articles about you all and what Broken Barrel's doing. So, over this short course, right? Less than 4 years, really.
Yeah, we've been building the brand for 4 years, but it's only really been out for we just came up on the first year of the name, the current logo, the current bottle. We rebranded. We moved only 2 years ago to be fully at Green River from grain to glass. So these are all recent changes. The brand is still extremely young.
Yeah.
And extremely new to most people. I mean, yeah, you can still go out into the world and find bottles of our whiskey on shelves that said infused spirits, and that's changed dramatically. They can't even compare the two.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to think how far we've come and how much we've done in not so long.
Yeah.
Not such a long time period.
No, it's really cool, and the partnership you all have at Green River is awesome, and we're going to see what Bardstown Bourbon Company is going to even just excel that further.
They're going to grow. I think they're going to grow, and it's going to make all the possibilities for them, for us, just that much more on the table.
Yeah, and you're going to get more creative, right? Because they're talking about a partnership where it's kind of a match made in heaven. Creativity on your all's end from the back end side, and then creativity from Bardstown Bourbon Company with distillation and mash bill customization and all of that. Like,
they're great.
That's got to be huge for you all.
I've always been a Bardstown fan. I've been going to visit the distillery for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people on that team. I know some of the top guys. I know some of the people working at the distillery.
Yep.
In the and Green River is the same. Everyone at the distillery that's there now still. It's just two wonderful companies that came together. Two of my favorite places to be in the world are those two distilleries.
Yeah, and I think it's going to speak volumes to what you all can potentially put out. And we're going to just close with this. So the Magic Rye, you have big plans. So you've entered this into a big competition.
I entered the Magic Rye into a big competition. I think I want this to highlight our single barrel program for bourbon and rye. I think as the years go on, you're going to stop seeing as many of the crazy Luciferous, Honey Smoke, Plank Walker, Fen Walker, some of these kind of wild things. A lot of them were born out of just having that whiskey and figuring out what to do with it and how to make it as interesting as possible. I wasn't just going to not use it. I mean, I have whiskey and barrels in my warehouse. I got to do something.
They got to go eventually, right?
Well, we got to put the right, it was, a lot of fun coming up with the right finish and the right home for it and the right audience that we thought would like those different whiskeys, whether it was Fen Walker or, the American barrel we did, the 7-year with the Sauterne.
The Rare Americana,
Rare Americana. Those are going to start to slow. So, that one thing is if you see those crazy ones, grab them, because we want to move a little bit into more of these single barrel releases. We want to work more with groups that want to pick, bourbon and rye is obviously the most popular. So there's definitely more opportunity in those categories than say single malt or wheat or, 100% corn type stuff, which we've done.
Yeah.
But
because we had an 85-15, like we had
85 corn, 15 rye.
Yeah. Like we had a really
rye, not malt, which you would think like, okay, corn, malt, bourbon. Yeah. It's a thing. But.
So it just different mash bills, different creativity. But I think going this way allows you all to accentuate the whiskey you're having and then add your twist. Because to me, this is heresy times 10.
It is, we're going to really expand, especially for the single barrels and distillery stuff. We really want to expand what we've got going on to a higher level, a higher degree, older whiskey, longer aging times, more unique opportunities, and really just make the visibility of the brand and the visitation at the distillery to take that to a whole new level that we're not at yet, but we're going to get there.
No, that's exciting. And make sure, if you're not checking out Broken Barrel, go over to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Just search Broken Barrel. They're on all that. If you want to know more about Seth, I will butcher his last name, so I'll let Seth say his last name. Benheim. You can go on LinkedIn. You can follow him. He's got a ton of good content that he puts out there, not just about himself and Broken Barrel, but just the spirits industry in general.
Yeah.
And so, Seth, thanks for taking 5-10 minutes away from the booth, because I know it's busy. So we really appreciate it, and look forward to continued success for Broken Barrel, man.
We're good, man. Thanks.
Yeah, cheers.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Best of Kentucky Bourbon Festival. You missed out on a great Kentucky Bourbon Festival if you weren't there here in 2022. Randy Prossi and the team continue to add awesome opportunities to get one-on-one with these distillers and these brands to understand what's coming out in whiskey in 23 and 24, 25. You got to be there next year. Look out for the newsletter with Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Go to their website, sign up for it. Best way to know what's happening with the festival in 23. As always, thank you for listening to this episode of The Bourbon Lens. If you want to know more information about us, go over to Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Bourbon Lens. You can drop us a line at thebourbonlens@gmail.com. Highly recommend going out to bourbonlens.com. We just redid the website. It's awesome. Really highly recommend it. And last but not least, we'd really appreciate it if you would go out to your favorite podcast listening app, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and leave us a comment. Scott and I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, cheers.